Hey audio lovers, Graham here from the recordingrevolution.com, and today I'm going to share with you the top 3 compression mistakes that I've made and I see others making in the home studio. We are at the end of my 7-part mixing with compression series. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've watched the previous 6. If you haven't, don't worry. They're all there for you. I've tried to demystify compression for you, explaining what all the knobs do, explaining how to think about using a compressor, and then show you some practical applications, ways I like to actually use compression in my mixes. But this series would not be complete if I weren't able to share with you what I think are some of the biggest mistakes I see people making with compression. And I know this from firsthand experience because, my friends, I've been doing this for so long, I have made almost every mistake you can think of. I probably have made more mistakes than are possible because that's the way I learn, is I just sort of do and I stumble through things. So if you've made these mistakes, don't feel bad. The point of this video is to share with you 3 that are super common so that you can identify them if you are doing any of them, stop making these mistakes, and then learn the better way so that your songs sound better. Compression is one of those tools that can totally make your songs sound amazing, and it can also jack them up. So let's unpack these 3 mistakes real quick so that you know that you're in the clear and so that you can start making better music. Mistake number 3, we'll count down from 3 to 1, is using too fast of an attack time. Now remember, the attack time is what tells the compressor how quickly to pounce on the audio when it goes through. And what I see is that most of the time when a compressor sounds horrible, or when you put compression on something and you're like, dude, this is making it worse, it's generally too fast of an attack time, meaning you've got some cool settings set up and it might be an expensive compressor plugin, but if the attack time is so fast that every second the audio goes through, it immediately gets pounced on, you are going to kill all the dynamics of your music because you're going to squash every transient. You're not letting anything come through. You're not giving any of it a fighting chance, and that doesn't sound natural. This is really, really common on mix bus compression. We looked at that in the mix bus compression video. I have had friends that say, Graham, you're always talking about mix bus compression. Mix bus compression's amazing, but I put it on my mix, I get the same plugin you're using, I dial in similar settings, and it sounds horrible. And I always ask them, what's your attack time? 9 times out of 10, if they are having a really hard time getting it to sound good on their mix, it's because their attack time is set to like 0.1 milliseconds or 1 millisecond, which is pretty fast. You can get decent compression settings with that on a mix bus, but generally, the slow attack is what's going to make the mix bus compression sound correct. The same is true on acoustic guitars or on drums. Now, I've shown you that you can use a fast attack, but if you find yourself not satisfied with the compression sound, or if it's just feeling like you've lost all the life of your music, it could be that you just have too fast of an attack time. Start with something in the middle, dial it back if you need it to have more life. If you want to squeeze the life out of it, crank it up, but generally that's not the goal. All right, mistake number 2 that I see people making in the home studio with compression is too low of a threshold. Okay, remember, the threshold is that point at which you say, any audio that goes above this volume that I'm setting, I want you to compress. But anything below this setting, I don't want you to compress. And that is so critical for you to understand. Compressors don't squash everything that comes through them. Compressors only squash what crosses the threshold. So you get to control that. If you have a low threshold, you're saying, please squash most of the sound. You're letting most of it be affected, which might be ideal. Chances are good that it's not. So if you find that your compressor is squeezing the life out of your track, if it's not already the first mistake, which is too fast of an attack, it might be this one, which is too low of a threshold. So what I like to do is raise that threshold, and while I'm raising it, I'm looking not at the threshold number because I don't care what that is. I'm looking at the gain reduction meter, okay? Looking at how much compression is actually happening. That might be a needle, it might be a meter, depending on how your plugin reads it. But look at the gain reduction and look for more subtle gain reduction settings. 3 to 6 dB of gain reduction on an individual track. As a rule of thumb, you can go more, you can go less. On a master fader mix bus, I'm looking at 1 to 2 dB of gain reduction. But look at that so that you're not doing 10, 20, 30 dB of gain reduction, but dial that threshold up because you don't want to squash everything that comes through it. You want to just compress the peaks. That's what's going to tame the audio and allow you to bring up the rest of it with a makeup gain knob and get that nice upfront sound with whatever it is you're working on. And the number one mistake I see people making in the home studio with compression is trusting the makeup gain and threshold settings on a preset. Okay, I'm not saying you shouldn't trust presets on compression. I think compression presets are more helpful than, let's say, EQ presets. Those are pointless. A compression preset might be helpful because it might have a desirable attack and release time. It might have a desirable ratio. But the makeup gain and threshold, you will always have to set yourself. We just talked about having too low of a threshold on mistake number 2. The plugin developers have no idea how loud your track is. No idea. There's no way for them to know, which means you, my friend, are going to always have to then set the threshold to see the gain reduction that you want, and then set the makeup gain to make up for that compression so that you're setting it at a similar output volume as the input volume. There is no way that a compressor plugin preset knows what to set those 2 knobs at. Threshold and makeup gain, or threshold and gain. Do you understand? So if your compressor has those controls and you can adjust them, because not all compressors do, but if yours do, and you use a preset, which is fine, just know you have to set those yourself, and you have to look at your meters while you do it. Don't get on Facebook or get on Google and ask what is the best makeup gain setting or what is the best threshold setting. Like I just said, there is no best. It all depends on the level of your track. You set it by watching the gain reduction meter, and then you set the output gain, the makeup gain knob, while watching the actual track and bypassing the plugin. Is it the same level as it was going in as it is going out? That is the goal for makeup gain. You don't want to make your track just louder with compression. You could just grab the fader and make it louder. You want to increase the volume back to where it was after you compressed some of the peaks with the compressor. Make sense? So if you're using a compressor plugin preset, always set the threshold and the makeup gain yourself. So there you have the top 3 mistakes I see people making with compressors. Too fast of an attack time, too low of a threshold, and they're trusting the preset blindly, not setting the threshold and makeup gain themselves. Now, before you go, if you have watched this all the way to the end, then you are better than most, you're more committed than most, and I want to give you a gift, which is my compression checklist. If you haven't gotten this already, please do it now. This is a 7-step guide to using compression that takes all the stuff I've been teaching you in this video series, including these compression mistakes, and puts them all together in a downloadable PDF that you can put on your phone, you can put on your computer, on your tablet, or if you're old school, you can print it out, put it on your desk or your wall next to where you mix, and quickly remember what is threshold, what is ratio, what was the attack time, what is makeup gain, how should you set gain reduction, what about parallel compression, what was that stacked compressing thing he did on the vocals. All the stuff I've talked about in this series is all there for you in these 7 steps, including all the philosophies, techniques, tips, settings that I recommend. All that stuff I put together in a simple PDF for you as my 7-step compression checklist as a guide to kind of partner alongside these videos. And it's available for you for free. Just go to compression7.com. I'll put the link here in the video and below, compression7.com. Just go download it now if you haven't already. It will help you, I promise. Then you can take it with you wherever you go and call to mind all these tips, all these techniques while you actually mix. You don't have to come back here and watch these videos again. Here's the goal. Compression, when used well, can really help your mix. It is the second most important tool next to EQ, in my opinion, for making mixes sound good. And you have compressors. If you have a DAW, if you have recording and mixing software, you have compressors. You just need to know how to use them better. And I want you to be able to feel comfortable, confident, and use them in a way that actually brings life and energy and punch to your mix and doesn't steal life and energy and punch from your mix. Go ahead and check it out at compression7.com and subscribe to these videos if you like them. More great content coming your way. Glad to have you as a viewer and subscriber. I will see you on another video soon. Take care.